Sales is really the art of language, right? You're using language to help people make decisions. And so if you're not equipped with the right language that you need, that you're never going to be able to influence behavior.
Hello, and welcome to the Private Practice Owners Club podcast. Nathan Shields here with my buddy and partner, Adam Robin. How are you doing, man?
Ready to go, man?
Yeah? Excited?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, January is coming on.
It's gone. I think is this the first episode that we put out in 2025? This is at least the first time we've done a recording in
Yeah,
2025.
you and I.
Yeah, we put out a few others, but this is the first time you and I have gotten together. And it's appropriate based on the topic that we're going to look back on what you learned.
Yeah.
And so you're still owning physical therapy practices. I sold mine a few years ago, not learning as I go because I'm not a PT owner at this time, but you're still in it. You're in the thick of it. And today we want to highlight the three things that you learned from 2024. Even though you've grown a lot, you opened your third clinic in 2024, right?
Yes.
That was
February.
February or
February.
March
Yep. February.
2024.
Yep.
So huge growth gains in
hmm hmm
2024, getting that ramped up. You've had leadership on board. So you're in a developing clinic, but you're in no sense in the new stages, right? But
No,
there's
the clinic's
still
doing great.
that just means that you've got things to learn at a different level. Always learning, right?
Always learning. Yep. I'll say it 3 times.
The challenges are just totally different. Whether it's trying to get out of patient care so you can get this singular clinic up and going and hire on your first or one or two providers that presents its own level of challenges. But you might think that things get a little bit easier as you get to two, three clinics or more, but it's just different challenges, even
Yeah.
though you're out of patient care, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that you said that because I talk to a lot of owners and they're all working hard, right? And they feel one of the lies I think that we tell ourselves is that like, oh, if I step out of treatment, that means I'm not working hard anymore. I don't know how else to move the needle. And sometimes I have to remind them that it's no, we're still going to work hard. We're
Yeah.
still going to work. It's just we're going to channel that same intensity into a different direction so that you can climb a new mountain, right? You're already kind of on the top of the mountain you're currently at.
Mhm.
Congratulations. There's a whole nother peak that we have to keep going on, right? So yeah, it's a lot of challenge. It's a journey, man. When you think you put in enough work, you realize, wow, there's so much more work to do, right? And you're like, it's it's kind of like a bummer, but also exciting, you know? So it's
Yeah,
like it just never stops. You just keep growing and evolving. And the more you learn, the more you get to pass down to others too. So that's always fun as well.
super fulfilling at that point.
hmm
Because I even remember, and we're not getting into the topics of what you learned in this last year, but I remember distinctly, and you had to go through the experience, unfortunately, of opening up that third clinic, and you were cash flowing that clinic, and you're like, man, I don't want to ever do this again. That's an experience that you had to go through in order to learn, right?
3 times again.
Do it a
It's
different way next time.
for sure, for sure. I mean, it costs a lot of money to grow. And
Yeah.
I'm being called to that book, Scaling Up by Bernhardt. She talks a lot about like that component of making sure you've got this scalable financial system in place when as you're growing. And I was like, oh yeah, probably should have double checked on that deal before I opened the third clinic.
I harken back to that book all the time, and I think it's within the first few chapters. I don't think I completed the entire book because it's got a little heft to it. We used portions of it to significantly improve the culture in our clinics, but the first part, I remember distinctly it talking about those growth stages for small businesses in general. 0 to 1 million is a growth stage, and then you grow again from 1 million to 4 million. There's a no in gross revenues I'm talking about is another growth stage, and I think it's 4 million to 10 million
Mhm,
is
mhm.
another growth stage. And in between those benchmarks, 1, 4, and $10 million in revenues, man, you're not necessarily making significantly greater profit margins, and but you're working harder, infusing with cash to get to the next level. And it's cool to see that just play out. As I've talked to other owners, younger owners, more established owners that have 20 clinics, 40 clinics, those numbers kind of stay true, man. It's really interesting to see. So, not that that's a part of our conversation today, but Yeah, it's good information,
Great information. Keep your finances in check. Probably a good
right?
idea.
Make sure your finances are scalable,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. For
Keep that
sure.
line of credit open. Make sure you have a
Hmm.
good
Hmm.
relationship with your banker so you can pull out the business loan when you get, understand the SBA process if you're going to go down that route. Just know how to get to money, know how to use capital. Okay, so talk to us about 2024. Where do you want to start? What did you and your team learn in the past year?
Yeah, so like I've been thinking about the lens of not just in my clinics, but what like I'm observing in other practices as well.
Oh, so not just what you experienced, but also because you're coaching a number of clients, you're seeing.
Correct.
Yeah,
But there's the same patterns, very similar patterns.
totally. I totally
Very
get
similar patterns. They're just kind of masked a little differently. Um, and so I don't know how I'm gonna kind of talk through this, but the biggest challenge, even, I mean, how many episodes have we done? How many episodes you got posted?
I've posted over 250, almost 300, I
Okay,
think.
enough,
Yeah.
enough, right? So there is never a shortage of conversations that we have around this idea of stepping out of patient care, stepping out of patient care. And what we're really talking about there is the art of delegating, the art of prioritizing your time over direct revenue generating activity
Yes.
is a hard thing to do.
Totally.
And the first hard thing to get rid of it just happens to be patient care. But that same monster shows up again and again and again and again. It turns into something different. So probably the most transformative book I've read in a long time was Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. I read that early in 2024, and it just solidified this idea of you will grow your business. You will have everything you want if you prioritize your time. Everything you want. And what I have kind of recognized is most people want very similar things. They want to make money, want to make some money, right? They want to create transformative impact in the lives of others via their patients, their team, their community, their family, right? And they want to be really present with the people that they love most. They want to like travel, they want to like learn new skills and go to the kids' soccer games and like be a part of their life at a high level. All of that is found through your ability to manage your time well, right? It's through your ability to like recognize when it's time for you to let go of things. And whenever there are these things that you get good at, like treating patients, right? That seem like a no-brainer. Like, I'm obviously the best person in my company to do
Mhm.
this, so I should just continue to do this forever.
Right.
And we get stuck in habit, and then 6 months goes by and 12 months goes by, and we don't realize like, wow, we're still living the same life as we were last year, and my risks have just grown, right? Everything's gotten more expensive, and I'm still doing the same thing. So I'm kind of like not doing a good deal, right? This is not a
Right.
good deal.
Yeah.
So, stepping out of patient care and recognizing that there are greater opportunities for you when you spend time on new things that you can evolve and grow into is the biggest lesson that I had to relearn again this year, and the one that I hope that we learn too.
Well, same challenges exist again. Like you said, there's just a different mask on it. One challenge is to get out of patient care, but maybe you are the best, I don't know, at paying the bills. I don't know, something stupid like that. And you want to control that when it's probably not worth your time to be doing that. Like, I know one of my friends, he like that takes energy from him, like managing all the accounts and when to pay the bills. And like he said, I don't want to do it anymore. So he found a bookkeeper, like find a bookkeeper, crap together, and then they tell you, hey, this is due. Here's the link, go pay it, you know? Um, and so he takes all that brain work off his plate. But that's just another part of delegating, buying back your time, like Dan Martell
Hmm.
calls it. It goes back to those who prioritize money over time will have less of both, but those
Mm,
who prioritize time over money will have an abundance of each. And
beautiful.
and so as you focus on time saving and making your time and appropriately working on those things that are most important in your company, that's when you start seeing changes in the organization. You start recognizing that I need to delegate this so I can focus over here where my company needs me.
Right. So I can fill my calendar with these things that I can grow into, right? Whatever, and whatever that skill is. Maybe it's I got to get tightened up on my finances, right? Maybe I got to spend more time in the financial department, right?
Sure.
Or I got to learn how to market, or I got to learn how to lead, or I got to learn how to whatever it is, right? And not,
Or I've got to work out.
yeah, I got to take care of myself.
You know, that was funny thing about one of our clients, Christy, when she first came on with me, she's like, I've had a new baby. I've been able to work out for months. I'm just in it every day. And within 6 months, it was less than 6 months, we'd found a way that she could start working out again. And she had so much more energy and she was more optimistic about what things that she can get done. And she had a different perspective as she came at work. It just provided a whole different light to her life because she had the time to work out.
Yeah. I would argue that this is the most important skill set that you can learn as a CEO is to recognize where you're, to be more aware of where you're spending your time and attention. And it pops up again whenever you're starting to build more leaders in your on your team because you're at a place where you've got two, three, four, five clinics, whatever it is. Congratulations. Well, you've gone through this transition of learning how to prioritize your time and battling that demon of learning how to let go and delegate effectively. Well, now your leaders are going through that same journey,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, where is their time being spent? Are they prioritizing their time so that they can grow into new things for your company?
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, there's layers to it. So if you can't master that, then you're never going to be able to help others master it.
Right. I think that's inevitable that your leaders are going to come up against that. I think that's a natural thing. And I know we experienced it, and I'm sure you've experienced it where one of your directors, maybe as a clinic director, maybe it was a director of operations or marketing, doesn't matter. But one of your leaders or future leaders comes up and is like, I'm overwhelmed
Mm,
doing this, that. And do an audit. Will was really good at sitting down and doing an audit with these leaders and be like, so what are you working on? Well, I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. And he's like, you know, that one thing that you're working on right there that's taking up 5 hours a week. I don't care if that doesn't get done until the end of the year. They're like,
mm,
oh, I thought you wanted that done like next week. And he's like, no, I'd much rather you focus over here. And having those
right.
conversations, right? And helping or saying, I don't want you working on that thing at all. Who underneath you, which one do one of this for you,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. I'm not so sure that aligns with your goals this year or with, right? Like,
Yeah, do you remember our priorities and our
right. Like maybe there's somebody on the team that can grow into that so that you can
yeah,
step into the big thing. Right.
yeah, exactly. So, and I'm assuming you had some of those conversations as well.
I never not have that. I never am not doing that every day, right? Like looking at like, okay, let's remind ourselves what's the priority again? I've got 8 hours today. How much of this energy needs to be placed towards X, Y, Z? Like be more objective about where you're spending your time, you know? And it'll transform your life, right? It's not like I used to make the mistake in thinking that, oh, whenever I feel good, I'll do the thing, right? Whenever I feel good, then I'll step out of treatment. Or whenever I feel safe and secure on my finances, then I'll step out of treatment.
Uh,
And it's literally the complete opposite.
it's a
Whenever
trap.
you do the thing, then you will feel good, right? So
Right.
it's like it's literally the exact thing. And so you have to be the designer of your schedule, not the victim of your schedule. And so it's coming back to patient care. You guys are treating way too many patients. You're spending your time doing, I almost cussed, but like things that just don't deserve your time and attention any longer. Like
Right.
we need to find ways to get those things off your plate. And quite frankly, I'm tired of the excuse of like, yeah, but patients just want to see me. And like, I'm the only one that can do it. Or like all those limiting beliefs. Like we've got to move past this. Like you guys have been listening to Nathan. You've watched me going through his program and literally transform and expand following these principles. Just trust the process. Do you know what I
Totally.
mean? Just do the thing and like your life will change, you know?
I remember having a conversation with one of the owners. She has a flourishing couple of clinics and she's still treating
Mm,
probably 25 hours a week and was telling me how these patients have to see her, right? And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
so why is it that they have to see you? Why can't your other, she's like, Nathan, I can run circles around my providers. I've got skills that are better than theirs. They're doing maybe 80% of what I can do. And um, I just get results. I said, how do you would feel if you told them that?
Mm.
I mean, if you
Sounds
told
like
them that,
poor leadership, really. That's what it
if you
sounds
told
like.
them the honest truth about how you feel about your providers, like you just told me, how would that go over? Right. And whose fault is it that they're not as good as you?
That's the real question.
Right.
That's the real question. Are you
Yeah.
taking ownership of that?
So you're saying I'm better than you, but if you do nothing about it, then they will never be as good as you, frankly.
Right. And that is literally that is it's like what problem do you want to solve? And here's the perfect example, right? Here's a perfect example. Like this person has a full schedule of of activity that's no longer or him to grow and expand into a different version of herself, which is the only thing that helps your business grow,
Right.
right?
Right.
So like there's this other really great opportunity that she can grow in, and it's called like team and help in training them and elevating them to a higher level so that they can do things similar to me, which is a new skill set which will require time and attention and focus and structure and clarity and vision,
True leadership.
right? And so you can't get there unless you let go of the thing first so that you can step into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you just decide like I'm going to make this problem my priority instead of my team, like the stress I'm dealing with, and the lack of sleep I'm dealing, like that's one problem. Or you can make the problem like I'm going to focus on building my team, make
Hmm.
that the priority. Then you can grow into that, right? It's a perfect
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So there, I feel like I've beaten it enough over the years, but I think I need to just say it more often.
I don't think we'll ever stop, right?
We'll
Patient
never
care is
stop
just
saying it. Yeah. Yeah.
right, but it comes back to like I said, like there's levels like helping your team realize when it's time to start stepping out of treatment or delegate,
Mhm.
delegating marketing, delegating recruiting, delegating onboarding,
Yeah.
hiring, all of those hard to let go of. And it's if you need to be the person to recognize when it's time to let go.
Yeah.
If you're the last person, then that's the problem. That's why your company's not growing,
And
right?
do you think part of it, and I worry that we're beating this subject a little bit too much, but it goes, maybe there's an overarching issue, and I wonder if that is people don't know how to offload that responsibility or that delegation or that coaching. So instead of facing the problem and saying, okay, I know that's the path I need to go down. I know I need to train them, teach them, show them the vision, maybe role play and hold them accountable to KPIs, but no one's ever done it. So I'm not sure exactly how to do it to them. So then I could, because I'm not sure, a little bit naive to that, maybe it's just easier to keep the status quo going, right? Um, and do you find that as you're working with clients that you have to kind of coach them into how they work out of one role into another?
Yeah. So yes. And there's a few things, right? So like it's going to be hard to step out of something unless you can create a bigger vision for yourself, right? If you can't
Until
see
you're
where you're
totally clear
going,
about what you're going to go into.
or you don't even have to be totally clear. You just have to be of what might be possible if you had some time, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the coach is helpful. Somebody who's already been there, who could be like, who can describe what it's like over there, who's like, yeah, actually the room looks like this, and this is kind of like this, and like, can you see it? And if you can help vision for that owner, and they can start to see it and buy into that possibility for themselves, that can be the thing to give them clarity and encouragement to step into it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially if you can give them a framework and tools, right? And then it's like, okay, now we're here. Let's pour into your team. Let me tell you how that works,
Yeah. And
right?
sometimes it's as simple as just saying, well, what kind of exercises would you need would you need if you wanted providers to be better providers so you could offload these patients off of your schedule and do more things? Well, imagine you were one of those providers. What would you need?
Mm,
What kind of instruction? And just giving them that space now to be a little bit more creative. And I think 9 times out of 10, if they just thought about it, about what they would personally want if they were being coached to take on patients and do better, like you'd be able to come up with that structure, I think. It wouldn't need a lot of coaching, like step one, do this, step two, do that,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
You could come up with it yourself if you just allowed yourself to sit in that space and say, what would I need?
Mm.
What would I imagine that being? How could I get to that best possible scenario? What would need to be in place? And then I think it would kind of come together.
Yeah, it would take some cognitive centers of your brain that you haven't used in a while, right? You have to kind of tap into some creativity.
And be
And,
okay and be okay with the first iteration not being perfect.
yeah, of course, mess it up a little bit,
Yeah,
you know?
let's try something, let's few things, see how it goes, and we'll work on it as we go.
Love it.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about that. What was the second thing that you learned this last year?
So the second thing is is this idea of having a sales framework or a sales process deployed inside the company.
What do you mean by sales?
So the framework that is used to, I'm going to try to talk as clearly as I can around this, but like there will be a framework of having enrollment conversations in various parts of your company. Whether you're having an initial phone call, you're enrolling that person to schedule an appointment and to show up. Whether you are hiring somebody, you are enrolling that person to join your team. You're encouraging them, you're influencing them team. Whether you're talking to a referral partner, you're enrolling them in the idea of doing business with you, right? Or you're enrolling a patient to refer their friend and family member, right? So there's a lack of sales, there's a lack of language that you're using to create these enrollment conversations to position your company in a place where you can serve more people.
Yeah, because that's in the therapy world, sales, right?
Yeah, yeah,
We don't want to
yeah.
be salesman-y. I don't want to be like the car salesman trying to sell something. Well, it's all about your level of reference and perspective. Like you're selling a plan of care after you do the initial evaluation.
Hmm.
Now let's get really good at it to make sure that those people actually show up for the entire plan of care and don't drop
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah. So if you guys are in the Facebook group, you might have saw a post that I posted not too long ago, depending on when you're listening to, like, but like what's the difference between marketing and sales? And I don't even know what the correct answer is, or even if there is. But what you'll see is that most owners are quick to raise their hand and say, like, hey, I need more new patients. I need to learn more marketing. More marketing is going to solve all my problems.
If you just get through my door, that'll
Yeah.
solve all the problems.
And I'm like, it couldn't be more false, in my opinion. It couldn't be more false. I know there's people who are not going to like that, and we're just going to have to agree to disagree. But like, people know what physical therapy is for the most part. Most people know what physical therapy is. Physicians know what physical therapy is. They don't know all of the sophisticated high level things that we do or what we're fully capable of, but they know the word physical therapy. The awareness is there. You've got 1,500 to 2,000 people in your cell phone right now who, if you called them and asked them what physical therapy is, they would have some understanding of what that might be. So and that's what marketing is. Marketing is really about this idea of building awareness around who you are and what you do.
Sure.
You don't have a marketing problem. You have a sales problem, which is how do I influence them and help them see that what I do is a solution to their problem? Like, how do I
It's
help
a
them
value
choose
worth,
me?
yeah, it's a valuable product exchange.
Exactly. How do I convince them that in an ethical way, in a way that serves them, that their time, money, and energy is worth spending with me because I can help them with their problem?
Mhm.
That is a sales conversation, right?
Right, right.
So you could literally pick up the phone and start dialing and start enrolling people into your clinic. And you could probably, if you're good at sales, you can probably pick up 10 or 15 new patients today if
Sure.
you were good at it, right?
Mhm.
So you don't have a marketing problem. You have a lack of understanding of how to promote and position your business as a solution to problems. And that is the key. Because we're we want to hide, I'm getting on a sorry, but we want to hide behind a Facebook post and we want to hide behind a Facebook ad and call ourselves like, oh, well, we're not promoting. That's just my Facebook post. But we lack the skills or the desire to like get out and be bold and like promote our business to people, which I think is was the real problem. So if you have more sales in your business, you'll never have a new patient problem. Your patients will be retained, be able to enroll people into your organization, and you have a problem growing your company.
Yeah, I think you can look almost every step of the patient life cycle and consider a portion of that to be a sales related, right? So if that person's making the first call into your clinic, well, go back the from the prescription pads that you might share with the doctors, or the website is specifically making sure it's geared towards sales and not just what you do, but why you're worthy of them coming in. But specifically that first call, man, your person at the front desk, they need to be able to convert.
They got to be able to convert.
Hey, that phone call that's like, hey, do you take my insurance? It better not be a yes or no, and here are the hours.
Oh, I need more leads.
What's that?
I need more leads. I need more marketing.
Yeah, yeah. That's where the salesperson at front desk kicks in, right? They need to be able to say, well, tell me more about what you're dealing with. Like, how can we
Mm,
help you?
right.
Right. And this is, I've got a provider here that has specific treatments and gets great results with XYZ problem.
Hmm.
Like, how long you been dealing with it? Aren't you sick of having to deal with it on your own and
Yeah.
trying different things and not getting better? I mean, they should be kicking sales gears on those phone calls, right? The providers need to be kicking in the sales gears when it comes to selling the plan of care.
Hmm.
Listen, this isn't how often you need to come in order to get results. Oh, I can't afford it. Okay, well, I don't know how you go into it from there. Come back when you can. Or do you just say, well, what is it worth to you to get
Yeah,
better?
yeah. Yeah, totally understand more about, tell me about the situation. What types of outcomes are you looking to then right now? So
Because
let's start talking about the outcome.
because I'm telling you, you need to come in 3 times a week for 4 weeks. Coming in 1 time a week for 4 weeks isn't going to get you there, right? And you're probably going to continue to have problems. And unfortunately, you might even say, physical didn't help me.
Right.
When I'm telling you, you need to come in at this prescription level,
Hmm.
right? And so sales can be seen there. Sales can be seen in the collections process. Like, hey, we want to do what's right for you guys. Let us know how we can help you out. Are there payment plans we can figure out? All that kind of stuff. But there's a sales part of the process is along the patient life cycle.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I can tell you for me personally, like things transformed for me, literally transformed for me once I started really deciding that I wanted to be better at sales. And I started installing that type of thing in my company, right? Being my providers on what sales is, what it means. We're not like the a sales company with all answers, but we're better than most. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like we're better.
tell us what you're doing in 2024 to make your providers, your team, better salespeople.
So it's it really it's the same done in 2023, which is installing that into the onboarding framework, right? So like there is so much that can go into that, but sales is really the art of language, right? You're using language to help people make decisions. You're right. And so if you're not equipped with the right language that you need, that you're never going to be able to influence behavior.
Mhm.
And so that language is found in the initial phone call, in the initial evaluation, in the check-in process, in the discharge, in the past patient phone call, in the interview process. It's all an exchange of language, right? So there's scripting and language frameworks that your needs to be equipped with and trained on so that they can find the words and find the inspiration to create movement in the company,
I got you.
right? So they have to be number one, they have to understand what the patient life cycle is, right? And where they just org board, right? They understand where the org board is and they understand I know exactly where I fit in this org board. I know my role, I know my product. They must understand the life cycle of the patient, where I fit, how I deploy effective strategies inside of it, how I create value inside of it, the language that I use to help people make decisions. They have to understand the patient life cycle, and then they have to be equipped with the language to add value. You have to role play that stuff,
Well,
right?
that's what I was going to say. So you obviously came up with scripts, at least the template of what those conversations need to look like in order to sell the end product. And you've been training them on it. Is that about right?
Totally, totally. So all noobs, we train. I can't remember if it's before the 90-day mark on their when we hire people or right after, but we train them on our sales framework, the language that we use. We call it the Southern Way, Profitable Provider Program. That's what it's called, and it's our sales cycle. and everybody's equipped with it. They have the language, they have the scripts. Then we start role playing with them, right? And during those role playing processes or training sessions, we're gonna use the tools. Like, how are you gonna help your patient see clearly the decisions that they're making,
Mhm.
right? It's an important piece. And then we retrain everybody every year. So
Oh,
every
sure.
year, Q1, we go through this entire process.
Is
We
that
have
like at team
somebody in our
meetings or
company.
something?
Yeah, we'll block off. I can't remember how many steps it's maybe it's like 6 or 8 steps to the sales framework. So we block off 6 weeks, and then we actually have one person on our team who's in charge of this whole program.
Hmm.
That into the company.
Yeah. An hour
It moves mountains.
during lunch, 1 day a week kind of thing.
Right. So like if
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
got if you're the owner, you're the owner, and you're this owner that circles around their team, right? You have, without necessarily recognizing it yet, you have lots of skill sets and strategies and influencing behavior that you are using to create great outcomes for your patients.
Mm.
So now it's time for you to bottle that up and package it and give that to your team so that they can elevate their skill set, right?
Right. Right.
So what we will do is go from one person doing all the work to 30 people doing a little bit of the work, right?
Hmm.
So now you have 30 people all pointing in the right direction who understand the assignment.
Yeah.
You can try to outmarket me if you want, but you're going to lose every time. You're going to
Yeah.
lose,
Yeah.
like it's just hard to have everybody that clear.
And you share some of that framework or those scripts with our clients, right? The coaching clients in the CEO Accelerator.
Absolutely. All clients that are in our CEO Accelerator, they get our clinical sales mastery protocol, and it's all outlined. It comes the exact process that I use in my clinic, the video trainings, the scripts,
Mhm.
how to install it, and we give you that so you can share that with your teams too.
I'll tell you the power of this one in particular, like a case study, if you will, before we move on to number three, that what you learned. But I had a podcast, it was a few years ago, and they set aside a half hour every week to role play asking patients for referrals.
Mm,
I mean, you might think that's excessive. Like, okay, 30 minutes every week, everybody on the team sets aside. This is like take your lunch for an hour, then we have another half hour we're working on this, getting a referral. And he essentially has what I think he realized 10% of his new patients are physician referrals.
nice.
Some crazy number. And I'm not exaggerating. He's like, I think our physician referral number that we relied on for new patients was like in the 10 to 15% range. So
Hmm.
guess what? When COVID came around, hardly bothered him at all. All those physicians' offices that were closed or
Hmm.
scaled back or
Hmm.
anything, they kept humming. Oh yeah, they
You
slowed
got
down.
30 salesmen on your team. It's like, how are you going to beat them?
Right, right.
Yeah,
And he's like, just crush. I mean, our my team knows how to get a referral and sell our product.
totally.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful thing. And I do want to hit on one more thing before we move on, because I know that you're not a fan of sales, right? I know it's not your natural thing that you enjoy doing,
It's a weak spot.
right? So we all have the weak spots, right? So, but we all are familiar that uncomfortable feeling whenever you have to kind of overcome an objection or challenge a patient or somebody on the
Hmm.
way that they're right. There's that uncomfortableness
Right.
of like, I don't know where to go from here,
Yeah.
right? I don't know where to go from here. Can you just listen to what I say? Like, I don't know. I'm not equipped with the language that I need
Can you
to
just say
help.
yes so that we're
Yes.
done
Can you
with
just
this?
say yes and save both of us right now? Right. Right. And that can, somebody's trying to cancel their appointment, or if they don't want to show up for their whatever, right? When you when you decide that you no longer want to deal with that uncomfortable emotion anymore, you will learn sales, you will learn the scripts, and you will never experience that again. And you will just be super empowered and excited about it. And it won't be this foreign weird thing. And like you'll win way more often. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
So
I need to go through your training process.
come on, let's do it.
All right. What's number three?
Number three. So here is what I have learned last year, that there are really owners, including myself, we're all looking for this outsourced solution to solve all of our problems. Marketing is a prime example. We think that if I just hire an agency to do some Facebook ads, I just outsource that situation. I never have to deal with sales.
Right.
Instead of deciding to learn sales and do the thing, right? So we're we're always inadvertently solution. We're trying to throw money at our problems, right? But things will not move into your business until you elevate, you as the owner will elevate your mindset, your skill set, and your ability to execute. When you elevate your mindset, skill set, and execution, your company will grow. That's it. Nobody's coming to save you for that. Okay. Owners usually get better at the mindset. They can read the books, they can learn the language. Mindset will improve, skill set will improve. But where I see owners getting stuck is this ability of execution, especially executing through their team, right? So, like, as an example, you just hit on it. Again, I'm going to use this owner who had all the mindset and skill set, but didn't know how to drive execution through her team or his team, right? So it's this idea of I know how to do all the hard stuff, but I don't have anybody on my team who knows how to do all the hard stuff. And I don't know how to equip them with the tools and resources and strategies that they need to do some of the hard stuff. So a lack of leadership, you can develop yourself as a leader, but you're having a hard time developing other leaders.
Right.
So that is the big bottleneck that I'm seeing practice owners and business owners in general bump into over, and they're not having through that hump.
That seems to be one of the more popular topics on the podcast that I've done. And I, when I've gone to PPS, one of the more popular presentations or breakout sessions are those around leadership development. Because I think as owners, we have a certain level of leadership, whether that's simply because we stepped out into that role
Hmm.
without significant training, simply by opening the practice, right? Um, or we have some experience with leadership in the past, whether it's in youth groups or through college or high school. Maybe we were president so and so club, or maybe we're in student council. So we have some level of leadership, and then we might have some natural qualities about us. No one is a naturally born leader that hasn't gone through the rough stuff to become a really good leader, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And so there is so what I'm just that it's hard to then turn around and develop other leaders because
Mm,
that's not something that you've been trained to do. So that's what I like to people is like, well, what got you to where you are? What influenced some of your decisions? What are influential people, podcasts, books, you name it, and how can you and maybe if you just lead your team to some of those same things, they'll start taking on some of the same leadership characteristics that you have and start leading your company the same way you do, which is ultimately what you want. You want your influence to be spread through the company.
correct.
Because to go back to where we started the podcast, no longer is your influence one on one with a patient, with me affecting one life as a provider to a patient, but rather now I'm affecting thousands of lives through multiple providers, right? And that's where your influence and power and your leadership really grows. And
Yeah.
so building out that kind of leadership development program can also come if you just open up your mind a little bit, and to say, well, what is me?
Mm,
What are some of the things that have been influential in my growth and development to this point? And if you don't have those things, then that's probably where you need a coach or you need to start with some books and listening to podcasts. Um, but if you do have those things, maybe you can just say, hey, here's a library of things that you can let's sit down every so often and tell me about a problem that came up and how you would solve it, and then I'll share with you how I would solve it, and maybe we can brainstorm on how to better solve it together, and give them the space to think like a leader
mm.
and give your experience. So I think there's a for owners to have some instruction on leadership development, and you can get part of the way there, but but building that out really going to drive your growth from a 1 to 2 clinic operation to 3, 4, 5, 10 clinic operation.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is just really getting clear on this leadership development program.
Yeah. And so, I'm a mindset guy. I love working with owners who've kind of got the operations figured out, but they're all in on the leadership. Like that's I love working with those people. it's my favorite thing to talk about. But the challenge that I recognize, and I'm not saying this is as a blanket statement, it's just kind of been what I've seen is, level one of leadership is leading yourself, transforming yourself into a leader, right? And that is like level one. But then level two is like, how do I build other leaders, right? And then level three is, how do I help others build other leaders, right? So there's levels of leadership. And I think most people, especially PTs and OTs and speech therapists, like they're really smart and capable humans, and like like you said, like they're doing hard things. They're elevating their leadership skills. But I think what stops most people is kind of what you on is I think that they don't fully recognize that they have much to offer other people, right? Like why would Nathan ever want, I'm just a regular old speech therapist. Like why would they? And it's not until you help them recognize it's like, yeah, but look how far you've come. You've read all these books and you've done all these hard things and that's inspiring. You have a lot to offer people, right? So there's this framework of like you've got to recognize that you've got something of value that
Mhm.
some people at least would find valuable. You got to
Right,
believe in yourself,
right.
right? So that's the first thing that we have to help them recognize. The second thing is, and this is an industry. We are very hesitant to allow other people to be uncomfortable, right? We don't
Mm.
want people to be uncomfortable. And unfortunately, there's no path to leadership without doing hard things and help and letting other people become uncomfortable. The problem is most owners have gone through traumatic experiences and really, really hard things, right? Like working 80 hours a week, just like killing themselves for years. And they just don't want that for their team,
Right.
right? Unfortunately, there's no leadership without hard things. And so what we want to do is create a controlled environment
Mm.
where it's like it's hard, but not freaking hard. You know what I mean? And once we give our team permission to struggle a little, but then also win, then you can start to see your team growing as leaders as well.
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity there for us to really affect and really get a lot of fulfillment as
Mm,
you see other people grow into leadership. And and you experienced it recently than me, but once I really got clear that the leadership team that I had in place cumulatively was significantly better than what I could do by myself.
totally.
And the team, like the rest of the team reported up to them, was happier because they didn't rely on me, the singular person, to answer all the questions, right? But now they have
Hmm.
a trained leadership team that they could go to, and I think that gives, frankly, I think the team much more those people who they know have worked up through the system to become leaders, and now they can say, here's a peer who is now a leader,
Who's done a lot of cool things.
done things, has learned a lot and will, um, and now they're telling me something. Wait, I thought Nathan and Will were telling me that, but now you're telling me that too.
Mm,
Maybe there's something behind it.
hmm, hmm.
It's that idea that when it comes from the owners, they might take it with a grain of salt, but when it comes from a peer who's saying the same thing, then they think, oh, you're serious.
Yeah,
We've
there's a
got
culture. There's a real culture here now.
we've got a second and a third witness
Hmm,
of
hmm.
what we need to do.
That's
Maybe there's
awesome.
some truth behind it. So a lot of power and a great opportunity there as you develop your leadership team.
Yeah, for sure. And it takes some intentionality to recognize like some of your limiting beliefs and to step into that place of boldness. But if you do, you can you can,
Definitely, man. Well, we've taken a lot of time today. A
we
lot of
did.
good
It was
stuff.
fun. It was
Well, the good
fun.
thing I think we need to really share here as we're talking about leadership development is we have developed a aligned leader program in which owners can offer some leadership development training to their leaders. Like a lot of what we've done the past few years is coaching our owners one on one, right?
Mm,
We have the one on one visits, we have group calls, we have a dedicated Slack channel, you have the Vault, which is a resource that owners can use full of templates and tools, et cetera, videos. And that's where the sales program that you alluded to in your problem number 2 is that is fully accessible to the clients. But at this point now in 2025, we're offering the aligned leader program. So that it's not all on the owners to do all the leadership development. We have some of that structure in place. You've put a vault together specifically for
Mhm.
resource and tools that leaders can use either as potential leaders or current leaders to go through and learn some things like time management strategies, right? The sales process and how to hold somebody accountable. All these things are in that vault for clinic leaders, and they will also be available to have groups with you, and we can start developing some of those leadership or some of those leaders and potential leaders with this to support those owners that have those out there, because we recognize that as these owners are going through, this is a tough stage to develop that leadership
Tough.
team. It can be tough, and to have some support is something that we are able to provide now to our clients.
Our vision, my vision, is to transition your team from tadpoles to sharks. That's the analogy that I'm using, right? We want to help you. Listen, you're ambitious, you're hungry, you want to grow, you want to make an impact in your life and in other people's lives. We want to help you build a team who can match that ambition, who's hungry with you, who wants to get on board with you, who wants to do some heavy lifting, who wants to work hard, who's open to sacrificing to grow in your company,
Mm.
right? We want to help you develop the culture of those types of people so that they can do some of the heavy lifting for you.
Oh, so nice when you have that when you have that team. Like I've met your leaders, and they are equally invested in
They're
your success.
amazing. They're
Yeah,
incredible. They
they're
they
doing
inspire me
amazing stuff, right? And it's not hard to say they care about as much as you do about that
for
clinic.
sure. For sure.
And Catherine about it more than.
Yeah, Catherine's, yeah, she
So
might.
she's doing awesome, man. So it's cool when you have that kind of support underneath you. So, anyways, thanks for your time today, dude. If people wanted to get in touch with you and ask about the Aligned Leader program, how do they do that?
Shoot me an email, adam@ppoclub.com. Join the Facebook group. Find me, Dr. Adam Robin. You can shoot me a DM. That's probably the best two ways.
Yeah, awesome. And then we'll catch you around on the flip side.
Sounds good, brother.
See you, man.